everybody. It's the Jess plus Scott plus you show. Welcome. We are so excited to have you here with us, and I am excited. I'm always excited, but this is really special because every once in a while, my mom does something completely and utterly amazing, and I just have to show you. Okay, what does this say? What does it say? Can you read it? Awesome. It says awesome. Look what they are. They're socks. I have a pair of awesome socks. Now, never thought socks could be so cool. I now have some of the coolest socks on the planet. And I recommend these for everybody. Or maybe a sticker that says, I am amazing, or I am awesome, or I am. That could be what the sticker says. Because choice starts with you. Choice starts with you. And affirmations work, and whatever meditation or breath work that you guys may choose to do, what it comes down to, regardless of how quirky or creative, is that we have a choice. And part of our choice is to see. So how are you doing tonight, Scott?
Well, I'm doing really well. And how are you today?
Holy macaroni, day 1 of 4 days of jury duty was all right. I made it through a totally different use of my brain, and I get to go back more this week. So, that was what's going on in my world today. How about you?
It was a day that started off with the lunch bunch with Ray Hilton. That was a lot of fun and got just a lot of things that needed to get finished. And I also thought a little bit about going into the stratosphere. Shall I do that right now?
Let's go.
Okay. The relationship between meditation and the choices that you make, because really, at the end of the day, it's not as if you don't make choices. It's that you always come up to a fork in the road, and you're either going to take the right one or the left one. I can remember, and I've never told anyone this, so our audience gets to hear this for the first time. I was young, in college, not really doing everything that I wanted to, and I hadn't written to my parents in like a month and a half. It was way past due, and I thought, oh, what can I do to make up? So I called them up and I said, and this was a choice that I made, I've decided to move from my hometown Billings down to where they lived, Reno. And you know the reason for that choice? It was because I hadn't written to them in such a long time. I wanted to kind of have some big news for them. What a huge difference that would make in a person's life. When one meditates, when one clears one's mind, then other things arise. And once that happens, if you don't have the obscurations of the mind cluttering it up, then you have an opportunity to make better choices. At least that's the thesis or the theme that I am putting forward for tonight. So there.
All right, and as people catch up with that, George, we want to say hello and welcome to you. Welcome to you. And I guess I'm in a singing mode. So do you sing, George?
Why, yes, I do. Welcome to you.
Yay! Oh, I like it. You know, everybody, George just steps up and steps in, and he is fantastic.
I just threw down with the crooner just then. That was the croon.
A croon. I don't know what a croon is. You're going to have to be going.
Well,
moving right along.
Oh, great. One of those. Okay. Got it.
We've been so looking forward to George joining us in the film strip, because if anyone can engage in a very deep and thoughtful conversation, it is Mr. Green with us. You just appeared out of nowhere. We were going along, and then all of a sudden, George Green comes, you know, you appeared in the comment streams, and you have your own programs, and just all sorts of things. So it's really nice having you with us today, and I can hardly wait to hear what you have to say and how you can add to the discussion.
Thank you, Scott. Well, and we're talking about choosing to know, and knowing for me is certainty. So the reason I just showed up was I was following all the experts' advice on Google+, which was build rapport, build engagement, build your audience. And I had my own TV show about 5 or 6 years ago on live stream. I had 2 sessions, so I was really chomping at the bit to have a show, but I reined that enthusiasm in because I choose to know when the good time is to start. And because I just showed up, I was prepared, I was ready and enthusiastic, and here we are having some essential conversations.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break and say thank you for joining us with the Jess plus Scott plus you show. We are talking about Choose to Know, and we have with us our guest, George Green. So George, let's go back to the question that Scott set up for us. Where would you like to go with that?
The first couple of questions we really want to pose, one to ourselves, but especially to our friends in the audience, are these. What are the answers you're searching for? And what direction is next for you?
Cool. And you know, that ties right into meditation and the power of meditation, but it doesn't necessarily end or start there. And I think that when we are thinking about those questions, at least for me, that requires a little bit of quiet, a quiet of the mind, because we have to get something more connected to ourselves, more connected to the universe to allow that to start to come out.
Mm-hmm. The context of what we're talking about is moving into knowing the unknown, or getting answers to questions we don't have answers to yet. And quite often when you ask a pointed question like, what's next for you, the first thing that comes out of many people's mouths is, I don't know. And so right away that's a consciousness, a mindset, and a form of language that refers that person being immersed in not knowing rather than being immersed in the question and curiosity. That's where I choose to know comes from.
What are some things that we can do or think about to shift that and create the pathway or open the door to some sort of flow?
Well, first and foremost, pause. I do not know is a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction to the discomfort of not knowing or being in some sort of inner argument about what the answer is, because many of us are other than aware, but we have active within our unconscious mind a myriad of what I call inner arguments or oppositions, especially when we are stretching forward into our vision, when we're completing some big cycle of our life. That's a very current space a lot of people are in, where they're transitioning from one kind of life or one kind of job into a brighter future or a different future, and everything's unfamiliar. So my answer would be, first and foremost, when you're in the question, wait. Don't try to answer it right away. Allow that question to be what I call the empty cup. There's a great illustration for this. Who in the audience here has ever lost their keys? And you're asking yourself, where did I leave my keys? And you're asking a consciousness that doesn't remember where they are. It doesn't have the answer. And that's usually why we search the same junk drawer 4 or 5 times. Who has lost their reading glasses and looked throughout the entire house and then touched their forehead and there they were? So the jump here, the reaction is to use a consciousness that other than knows yet to answer the question that's at hand. Scott, you look like you're jumping to say something.
Oh, man. I mean, you're just opening up such wonderful things. The underlying assumption is that if only we could calm our mind and wait, be that empty cup, that eventually the right answer will come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
I'm trained in conscious language, so with permission, I'm going to invite an upgrade from if only to just simply when we choose to slow down. And
that even strengthens my question, because how do you know that just by the mere nature of my slowing down that the right answer will inevitably percolate? why not the wrong answer? Why not something that would send me down the wrong path?
All right, so your question is born out of uncertainty. Your
No,
question may be born out of a history of not being sure about your choices. The answer is practice. How do I operate from certainty when I ask and I say I choose to know? Is because with practice, I have learned how to implicitly trust my inner intuition, my inner voice, my heart, to the point where it's implicit, as I said just a second ago. So when I ask the question and when I've practiced slowing down the machinations of trying to answer it, this is a function of imagination and curiosity and a hunger to be inspired. Inspiration often we think is a lightning bolt from heaven, but it actually is an explosion of imagination, creation, and a desire to know that has its origins in our heart, in our center.
Do you have a practice or a thought that when we choose to know, now we have to light a fire under our butts or get on our magic carpets or ride our unicorns or whatever we're going to do? How do we find the courage to do that in your frame of reference, in your worldview?
Whatever your vision is, the more you associate into the texture and the detail and the specificity of your vision, the clearer your outcome becomes. To the degree, and a lot of visionaries and creators and artists play in this particular playground, to the degree that they're operating from already having their vision fulfilled. That's a level of certainty that we can describe. Another level of certainty is a reflection of your commitment to your vision, your commitment to not only the large, big picture, the picture out on the horizon, but your commitment to what the next best step forward is. And so there are two metrics there. Keep your eye on the prize, and keep your eye on the prize, and keep your strategy and refine your strategy on your trajectory. Where am I today on my trajectory to my own fulfillment? And that is a question I go through every day, because I'm the guy who likes a bigger fire so I can put more irons in it. So if I'm not in that inner inquiry of what's the most generative thing I should be doing or can do just now, and that changes from moment to moment. So for me, that practice of certainty happens moment to moment, day to day, hour to hour.
And here's what I got out of that. You're going to see one of my beautiful drawings here, and it'll probably show up in a picture somewhere. So I saw a bar graph, right? I
Nice.
see keep your eye on the prize on one axis, and I see my trajectory for my life on the other, and then I have a bell curve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always comes down to feeling. You know, you can make a career out of chasing your own tail by asking yourself those questions. This is the great value in having a mentor or a coach. Now, I've been doing that for other people for upwards of 30 years. I need one. I need a mentor. I need somebody that I can sound off on, who can hold me accountable, who can point out when I'm filtering something rather than really being present to what is. So I think there's great value in that. There's been an ongoing conversation that seems to be branching out, where people like us and our friends are having conversations around waking up and moving into new levels of partnership. First, within ourselves, the new partnership is listening, renewing and resurrecting your conversation with your essential self, with your heart, with what you burn for, what's passionate in you. That's scary. And,
It is scary.
And I love scaring myself, you know, so let's all get together and pin our ears back.
Goes back to the sea of sameness versus being additive, versus living in this type of richness that is available just by those tiny incremental steps of being scared and living in that gray area of growth.
Reality is, and I think the discomfort that so many of us are feeling, and the seemingly spontaneous transitions that are happening that are making us uncomfortable, is the reality that we are being called up and out to wake up, to step out of our familiar zones, out of our comfort zones, and really throw down and remember and choose to know why we're here. And that's the difference between, and in the past, only not dying or surviving or just going along at whatever your autopilot settings was doable and sustainable. It's not anymore.
That's true. We have a new status quo. And I want to talk about this in the form of leadership, because whether we are a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, a single person in business, or we are part of a 500 or 1,000 person organization, we might head a team, we might answer the phones, we might sweep the floors, we might be setting the strategy. All of this comes down to active leadership. And there are 3 areas of active leadership. The first is the self. The second is the task that needs to be done. And the third is the team. And where each of those overlap is that sweet spot. And it's really cool to think about everything that we were talking about for the individual, for the self, and then knowing, basically setting an example. I love the idea that we can, no matter how big we are, no matter what role we play in the organization that we're in, that there's us and there's the organization, and we really have something additive to it. And we are typically are not our organization. And even people who work in big organizations, if they become their organization to an extent, they take things a little more personally. They're not able to see the team. They're not able to see the mission or serve the way that they need to serve. So when I talk about stuff like that, I am talking about everybody, regardless of business size in that sense, which I think is kind of cool that we all have an ownership and an onus to think about that stuff.
The key to your success, the key to your having an ideation, a vision, and then fleshing that out with breath and love and life, making it real, has everything to do with being aware of, choosing to know where you are internally with your inner agreements and alignments as opposed to your inner arguments. And the reality is most of those inner arguments, the doubts, the fears, a parent's voice that we've adopted as our own that says you're not good enough or you're doing it wrong, any number of things, they're active and they're echoing beneath our conscious awareness. So if you have a vision, if you have a desire and a dream, then ask yourself, I choose to know what part of me is fully aligned and committed, and I choose to know and I choose to sit with those parts of me who are not. That is essentially the pillar of mindfulness and the mindfulness practice, which is curiosity.
Curiosity is a way to live in the moment. It is a way to bring in what is truth right now.
It's very uncomplicated. And the invitation that I make to my client partners and my friends, because we're all playing on the same playground, which is step off the old battlefield and onto your new playground. And to expand on curiosity, is we choose to sit with what is active in any moment outside of judgment or narrative. That's what's active unconsciously. So what Jess said was there is no wrong answer. The reality is we don't even deal in right and wrong, just what is active. It's really clear in a mindfulness practice or your practice to choosing to know, if you want to know if it's a good direction. Notice I said good rather than right or wrong. Then if it's in alignment with your true purpose or your heart, it's going to feel fiery and expansive and exciting. And if it's not, it will feel heavy and contractive. And that may seem like an oversimplification. It's not. Because
no, it is not.
Because in the moment, you choose to know, and there is no debate, there is no argument. You either are on or you're not, and you sit with your nots and you love them just as you do your enthusiasm, because what was operating in your unconscious awareness when it's brought into the light of your conscious awareness, it no longer has the ability to rule you or drive you in a particular direction or create, again, inner chaos, confusion, or conflict.
This is the Jess plus Scott plus You show. We are talking with George Green about I Choose to Know. So thank you, George Green, for that amazing answer. And you know, Scott, you've been absorbing a lot. What's going on in that brain of yours?
Well, I'm listening to George, and I'm thinking about people who might just be going along living life because you live life. You grow up, you've got a mortgage, you have families, and so forth, and then at some point you kind of wake up and you think, okay, I want to take things to the next step. How long does it take someone to feel as if they've been able to identify a new way? Let's say someone is out there and they say, okay, you know, I might be all right where I am right now, but I'd really like to take things to the next level. How long does it take, and what do they have to do?
Can I answer? Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
Can I? It could be right now. Oh, wait, no, it could be right now. Oh, wait, no, we just got that moment. We could be right now. Okay, now, sorry. Thank you, George. Not sorry. Thank you, George. I needed to get that out.
I'm so glad you did, because that blew my hair back. Thank you very much. No, wait, it just blew my hair back again, just then. Your length of time between where you are, point A, and point B being, you know, the next summit that you desire to reach, that outcome of the next summit is commensurate to your desire to stretch beyond your existing limits, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because as we've said earlier, if your dreams are not scaring you, you're not doing it right. And I know that's language steeped in right and wrong, but it's kind of fun and it's kind of funny. So how deep is your desire to change your story? Because I know, you know, the way you described it, that's so many people's lives, Scott. It is the mortgage, the kids, the responsibilities, the fact that I'm putting in 10 hours a day, and then I have to come home and do my other job, all of these things. So we can have a narrative that says, this is it, this is as good as it gets, or we can say, you know, I'm busting out right now, and I choose to know what can be different in my life, and then go after it.
Okay, now here's a comment that I'd like to share from Trina Paulus. I think of the Grail search. The knights sought the answer for peace was finding the Grail, but they did not ask the necessary question of the wounded Fisher King, what ails thee? They did not realize that question was prior and necessary for finding the answer. They missed this because they thought they knew the question and the answer.
I am tenacious and stubborn. And when I encounter limit or my own shadow, I don't dig in and lean forward. I sit down and slow down. Because whatever that shadow is, whatever that resistance is that I've noticed and have manifested, is there because I have stretched forward beyond my fear and beyond whatever my consent was to reality this morning. So that's how we make friends with our shadow. That's how we choose to know and hold ourselves open as the empty cup.
Is it more difficult as a team of one to take a step back and perceive the larger organizational picture? So I actually think it's harder the more people you have, because every single person has a pivotal role to play. Every single person has a reason that they're there and has a gift to bring that gets them excited that they decided to apply for the job in the first place. They decided that they wanted to come to work that day. They decided to come back from their break. They decided to come back from lunch. They left at the end of the day. They might have been tired. They might have been crazy, but they know they're going back the next day.
In addition to that, what I want to point out is our stories and expectations are what govern our results. And so if you think it's more difficult as a solopreneur to back away and see the larger picture, so be it. if you're invested in a large organization being more difficult to adjust trajectory, it's going to be true. There are always people who are missing the DNA that says you can't do stuff, and they just do it, and I love those people. They make me crazy sometimes. I've had some very deep relationships and personal relationships with people like that, and they challenge my freaking limits. That's why they make me crazy, but they also inspire me.
We might find some new answers about ourselves, and I'm going to repeat some of these questions that George has posed to us during the conversation and that Scott and I have contributed to or taken off on crazy tangents. And the first is, what answers are you searching for, and what direction is next for you? Another, out of all your list of to-dos and your grand plans, which one of those is your actual primary? And as Scott and I would say, because we're fans of the one thing, there can only be one. And
I am the one. I am Geo.
That's right. Yes, you are. And after you figure that out, what are your best and first steps forward to creating and realizing your best possible outcome? Now, that last one we've touched on in a lot of different ways, because we might look at this as ourselves in our personal life. We might look at this as a business owner. We might look at this as a leader. We might look at this as somebody going to work tomorrow or the next day. And so spend some time and think about those questions as we're moving forward. And I want to say, before we continue, where can we find you, George?
Well, first and foremost, you can find me here on the Plus. And I should be in the event description. I believe it's Plus George Green. They can also find me on my website, themindfulnessadvantage.com. And I have some intro programs. People, if they desire to know more, can schedule a free consultation with me. And this is more about answering questions and presenting a potential playground and figuring out whether or not we're a good fit to play together. And that is the first guideline, is we're here to play together. Everything that you've done in the past that showed up and felt like work has created a foundation for you to play and imagine and create.
And if I were to summon up my inner George Green at this moment, I would say, you are the source. Did I do a good job?
Lovely.
What do you think? Mm-hmm. That's right. What would you add to this, Scott, as we're winding down our conversation?
Different than you, Jess, what I would say is that the various topics that George has elaborated on in his various Hangouts on Air, and he's been everywhere. They are evergreen. They are well planned, and they will be just as relevant 6 months from now as they were when they were live. So I encourage people to check him out and to see what he has to say, and go from there.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Scott. Thank you. And I want to say, this is the Jess plus Scott plus You Show Season 2, where we're talking about our overarching theme of the season, the supreme unselfishness and putting yourself first. We're having conversations with amazing people who are passionate about personal and business development. Grow, learn, and share your comments with us. Thank you to Scott from the Scott Treatment, who helps businesses capture the potential power of video through post-production. And I'm Jess Duell, working with business leaders that want to be so far ahead that you are setting the standard in your industry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.